Hey, this is Meridith Elliott Powell, and I am just hanging out here talking with the unbelievably talented Dr. Shirley Davis. And, we have been talking for quite a while about some of the education, some of the strategies that we use in the marketplace. And we thought, wouldn't it be interesting just to take this conversation live, really to just talk about how you find the path to profitability, growth, and success. Now, Dr. Shirley, I certainly know your extensive background, but I think it might be a good way to start to just, give us a little bit, tell anybody who's listening right now, just a little bit about you because your background is so impressive.
Thanks, Meredith. It is such a pleasure to be here. And yes, love, love, love talking to you because we have so much in common relative to the way we run our businesses, being professional women entrepreneurs, and certainly the way that we want to add value, and especially during this time of disruption. And our backgrounds are somewhat similar, but complementary. So for me, I actually cut my teeth in corporate America in banking and the financial industry because I worked in banking for about 15, 16 years, went through a number of mergers and acquisitions, moved all the way up into a customer service position where I literally was proposing to clients on how to invest, how to save, and how to really build wealth inside of their organizations as entrepreneurs, but also just generational wealth. That's one. But my 30 years that I've also done work in is in human resources. And I worked in every area: recruiting, leadership development, culture transformation, employee relations, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I've enjoyed just seeing how now the world continues to change, but the work of human resources and talent management has not changed at all. We really have a key and critical role to play in ensuring that employees have an awesome experience and that companies get top talent to be able to help them innovate and help them to thrive.
Yeah, very, very well done.
No pun intended.
Okay, I want to dive into that
Yeah,
just a little bit because I think I love the fact that you said we're complementary because
yeah,
truly, I mean, so much of your work is in building the employee experience, and
yeah.
I'm a firm believer that my work can't be done if your work isn't done. I can't. You're never going to drive sales. You're never going to drive strategy in a company if you don't drive the employee engagement piece. But let's talk a second about what do you see like as you look at
Yeah.
2024? What are you seeing in the human resources landscape? Like, what are some of the biggest challenges leaders are facing today beyond the elephant in the room of just finding the talent, right?
That's right. Yeah, that is a big one. And it's not just only finding the talent, but it's also where to go and get them, where to source them, how to build strategic partnerships and relationships so that you're tapping into a whole nother market that you haven't, where you can bring in new ideas and different perspectives and certainly innovative and creative ways of solving problems and meeting the needs of your clients. But I also see so many leaders and executives, and I work with a lot of boards as well, where they're really struggling on how do they not only get the talent, but keep that talent, keep them engaged and ensure that they've got the mental stamina and making sure that there's the psychological safety that's there and that they've got the resources to support and that the culture is a culture of trust, a culture where there is safety there, a culture where it taps into people's untapped potential and builds out the opportunity for them to really thrive. So that's where they're really struggling. There is the employee engagement, the employee experience. How do I make sure that I'm getting the greatest amount of productivity from them? How do I manage now today all the disruptions in the workplace, like the changing technology? People are working remotely now. They're able to now tap into and work from home, and yet they're serving a global community of customers and clients. That's a lot of complexity there, and leaders are really struggling.
So, I know that we both do quite a bit of quite a few courses on the LinkedIn Learning
We
channel.
do.
And one of the reasons is because education's everything, right? I mean, information
That's right.
to how to lead as well as to provide employees. Well, I'm curious as to some of the courses that you're providing on LinkedIn. Now, I know that you've got some in the library, but I'm
Yep.
curious too as to what you're working on and what's kind of
Yep.
coming to the forefront.
Yep. So wonderful. So I actually work a lot with leadership courses and courses on how to lead across differences, but also how do we build the right kind of cultures of inclusion, belonging, and cultures of high performance. So I just had a course that rolled out this year. Now I'm on course number 9 now, but this summer I rolled out 2 of them. One was on leadership foundations, and it really is about the new and changing role of leaders given this global workforce and how things are changing and the demands of the new generation of talent. What are the skills and competencies that leaders need today to lead not only today, but in the future? So I just rolled out that course on the skills and competencies. I'm working on one right now that's going to be coming out early this summer, and that's on inclusive leadership. How do we get leaders that are willing to be vulnerable, transparent, authentic, demonstrate empathy, have the level of emotional intelligence to be able to work with someone who looks like me, a woman, a
Right.
person of color, a mom, and one who has, I've been around the world, worked on 30 in 36 countries. But I also recognize that I am also considered an underrepresented, marginalized group in our society in the United States. And so, how do leaders, for example, men who may not be comfortable giving feedback to women, or older workers who may not know how to engage and truly leverage the gifts and the talents of the younger generation? So, working across that diverse and a varied amount of talent, leaders need to know the skills and competencies to be able to do that.
I think that's so interesting because I deal with so many people in the workforce right now that are afraid to give feedback.
I
I mean,
know. That's
because
right.
because, you're afraid that you give it incorrectly,
Yeah. You might say the wrong thing, or
yeah,
something can go viral, or you end up getting reported to HR, because that's
yeah,
a real thing. It does happen. I mean, we all have lenses in which we see the world. We all have biases that we may not be aware of, and sometimes we say things and do things that we don't know how it lands with other people, and it
yeah,
may be seen as a real insult, or something that's minimizing to someone. I know I've heard a lot of those things, something as simple as, wow, you're so articulate. Or, you may hear someone else say, oh, you speak English really well. Where are you from? And it feels a lot like I'm not a part of, or I feel othered, right? That's what we call it,
yeah.
othering.
So what do you I want to talk a little bit about how our courses work in the LinkedIn
Yeah,
learning platform. I mean, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I have really loved about them is that I feel like they're micro learnings.
they
I
are.
mean, the courses that, the courses are, because I think, don't you feel like learning right now, it's a challenge for time?
It is. It is. And that's what you're hitting on it. I believe that that's the value that LinkedIn brings. I mean, first of all, they have, tens of thousands of organizations that they work with, and staff that are able to leverage it. And I love being able to just get it in digestible chunks, right? So we do these videos on LinkedIn, and they're no more than 2 or 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you go to the next one, and you go to the next one. So it allows me to just take some time out, and actually I'm able to access something that I need right now. So call it real-time learning, but it's also digestible learning, and sort of those little micro video snippets that people can really work through.
You know, what I love about that is when I started with LinkedIn Learning, and I've been lucky enough that I think we've both been there a while now.
Yeah.
Our I think that our scripts, when we started putting them together, were at like 700 and 800 words, and
I know.
now they're down to, like, they don't want you more past 300, 500
I
max,
know. That's right.
right? And the
Yep.
tighter you can say it. So I love it because you can watch a video so quickly,
That's
and
right.
get and when your ability to teach is shrunk to 300 to 500
That's
words,
right.
you better get to that point pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
It has. It taught me how to really be brief, how to be
Yeah.
clear, concise, and compelling, right? Clear, concise, and compelling. And it allowed me to be able to provide some best thinking, best experiences. I love telling stories. I love sharing some of the lessons that I've learned, and even some of the setbacks that I've overcome, because I think it's so relatable to the people who are taking it, the learners, and I hear so much from them that they're getting a lot from it.
Yeah, I do too. And I've had a lot of corporations take it, as far
Yeah.
as a lot of individuals
Yeah. Yeah.
take the courses
Yeah.
as
You and I were
well.
talking about that too, Meredith. And one of the things that I do as well, and I think, like I said to you, and I've been on this, I've been there with them now since 2016.
Wow.
And some of the things that I do with my clients is I actually make that a part of the learning journey. So while I might do something live in person, I love to then offer them some follow up. And so we'll do like what I call long term learning paths. And so it'll be, yeah, here's your learning path for the year. We're not going to do just a one and done, but we're going to now have you go through a process. And every quarter, I'll do like a check in with them via webinar. We debrief all the learnings that they've taken. But in the meantime, in between that time, they are literally taking some of the courses, reading resources that I've given to them, and then they're partnering with each other inside of the organization to talk about how they see it, how they interpret it, and what kinds of behaviors they're implementing and committing to put into action.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other thing that I love, and I don't know if you've had this opportunity yet, but I probably have been there about the same time that you have. I
Yeah.
think everything gets a little bit confused before COVID,
Yeah,
but
it
uh,
is.
that the courses get updated. It's not stale information in the
Yeah,
library.
I'm updating one now that I did
Yeah.
my very first course from 2016. I'm now refreshing that now. So I even appreciate that. So you're getting real time and some of the most updated, refreshed information. So I love that they keep it updated. And the other thing I love too, Meredith, is sometimes, like especially during the COVID time frame, there was so much that people were having to deal with that they were reaching out to some of us as their authors saying, hey,
Yeah.
we don't have anything on this. We don't have anything on that. How do you, keep them engaged when they are remote working? How do you create a sense of belonging when you can't really see them every day? Is those kinds of things that I love that LinkedIn did, was to stay relevant and make it real time learning.
I think so too. I think that they do a really, really good job. In fact, I just updated a course that was one of the first courses I did, and we
Mhm.
updated it about 2.5 years ago. And they just reached back out and said, "I think it's time to update it again because that's how fast the
Things
marketplace."
are changing. I know. What's
Yeah,
the course that you just did? I know you've been working on yours.
yeah.
Tell me about the one that just rolled out like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it just rolled out today. In fact, we were laughing about it because I was a little bit late for the podcast because I was just getting all excited about that. So I just rolled one out on updating your value proposition. I
Oh,
work more in the sales space, you work in the leadership space,
yep.
but what it takes to really remain relevant in
Yeah.
today's marketplace. And I've got to tell you, I feel like this is one of the best courses that I've done. I mean, it's
Mhm.
the content is really engaging. The downloads are really good. It really makes it executable and easy to
Yeah.
integrate and implement. And I think individual sales people as well as sales teams, you could do this as an individual or really do it together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to taking a look at it. And, even though I know yours is sales and I'm kind of like in the people side of the business, being in human resources, and then for both of us being, an entrepreneur, we're selling every day. And I
Yeah.
tell leaders, you're selling every day. You got to be able to influence change management initiatives. You've got to be able to sell policies and procedures. You've
Yes.
got to sell yourself as a leader for workers to be able to trust you and want to do their best work for you, as well as, we're selling to our clients and our customers, but every day we really are selling ideas, we're selling behaviors, we're selling policy strategies, as well as products.
It's so interesting that you would say that because I do think that what we do cross pollinate so well is that
Yeah,
the truth is you can't sell if you can't lead. I mean,
that's right.
if you can't influence
Yeah,
people, if you don't understand what it takes to persuade,
that part.
people. But it's really funny. I was dealing with working with a client yesterday
Uh-huh.
who is an executive at a company in Washington D.C. and she would have defined herself as far away from the sales space as could possibly be. But we
Uh-huh.
were talking about her getting an idea across. And
Yeah,
the truth is what she's doing is selling that
that's
idea. I
exactly
mean,
right.
she needed to go about it exactly the same way. I did a
Yeah.
course on creating your business strategy, your business sales strategy. And pretty much I sent her the link to that and said, I think you need to walk through this course because this is
Mhm.
this is what you're doing, right?
Right. The skills in that course are transferable across all roles, across all responsibilities, and even, any size organization can do that. So I think that's why I say I think there's a lot of complement there as well too. So what are you seeing in your business and sales? I know we've talked about mine and talent management. What are some of the big trends and big disruptors that you're seeing as well?
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest, and I've got a course coming up next on this one, is really blending the marketing and the sales teams. They've really been sitting on two sides of the corporation of the company and not really integrated together. And I think Gartner released a statistic that said people are 60% of the way through the buying cycle before they ever interact with a person. So
Wow.
that's been a dramatic change to the sales space, and
Yeah.
that salespeople really now have to work on building their network, building their relationships, building their, their connections. It's interesting, and I'm sure this is a lot in your space too. I feel like the human side of what we do is becoming more important because technology is
Yeah.
picking up a lot of the transactional pieces.
Exactly. The bots and the AI and the digitization, those things that, one of the things I've heard is as long as anything you're doing has an algorithm, it can be replaceable, right? So it can be, you can be replaced by something, like a robot or whatever. But what is really important and what they can't do in AI is they can't give you like that human touch, the new ideas, and as you're generating innovative ways of doing things, they are only bots and digitization is only as good as the formula, but we can come up with very unique and different ideas and perspectives on how to meet people's needs, how to engage with people, and people love just that personal customized touch right on the spot.
Yeah, it is, are you seeing leaders having to train people differently? Like how is technology impacting your space?
Well, a couple of things too. Obviously, in human resources, we're automating a lot of things, right? Everything from, benefits and open enrollment to now, certainly we're doing a lot of work online for recruiting and sourcing talent, and learning and education is all online. We are now able to hire people differently because back in the day, we only kept people localized, but now you can hire people from all over the world, and certainly expand your
Mm,
pipeline. Training and development is a really important one. And that's helpful for our companies because they don't necessarily have to spend the money to have all butts and seats, but you can learn it as you go, like a LinkedIn learning course, or we do a lot of on-demand courses as well. Those are changing the ways that we communicate information now. So we've got to have things uploaded on social media and all of our sites, as well as getting it out on email and communicating in different ways, different languages, and also different modalities, because people learn differently, they think differently, they process information differently. People are more neurodiverse, and they're admitting that they're more stressed than ever before, and certainly they have different abilities in the ways that they process. Someone who's ADHD, we have to be
yeah,
sensitive even when we got them in the Zoom room and we're having meetings, and stop saying, do not turn your computers off. I mean, your cameras off. Some people need to do that as a way to disconnect for a
yeah,
second or two because of their ADD, right? So
yeah.
just thinking about multiple ways of how we have to now leverage technology, but also be much more accommodating and accepting that people listen, hear, work, and receive information differently.
So, of all the courses you've done, which one's your favorite? Do you have a favorite course that you've done?
Yes, 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 yes. The one, remember you just said this was my best one yet, the one that
Yeah.
just came out. So I feel like over the years, I've kind of got into a better zone. And
Yeah.
the more we work, the more we do, I think the more lessons we learn and the more wisdom we have. So the one that I did on leadership foundations moved up the ranks to me to one of my best ones ever. And one of the things I did differently with that one was I was able to lean in a lot more because I'm a leader, I'm a CEO, but I've also ran a lot of teams and managed projects. But what was also different about this was I was able to feature a couple of CEOs.
Oh,
One was, he's a retired CEO of US Bank, the fifth largest bank in the US. And then also the CEO of Make a Wish Foundation, able to talk to them. And then my best boss ever, who was a chief HR officer when I worked at the Society for Human Resource Management. I was able to feature them live and in person to talk about their leadership journey and what they wish they had done differently, what their secret sauce is to being a great leader. And I think that's what the users were able to see as wow. Now it's not just Dr. Davis sharing with me all of her learnings, but I get to hear from a real life CEO of a major Fortune 10 company.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you do it? Did you do it interview style with
Yeah,
them?
we
Okay.
did it
Okay.
interview style, and I asked them a number of questions, and I told my producer, I was like, I really, if I have to cut some of my content back, I really want to enhance it by asking some of the questions of them for us to talk about it versus me just talking about it in a couple of scripts. And
Yeah.
it came out in June, and in just a matter of 6 months, Meredith, it has risen to one of the top. It's rose up there, and it's actually gotten up nearly 100,000 users that's already taken the course. It's become one of what they call, the career paths that they do.
Yeah.
It's a core course that people have to take. I don't care if you're an IT or if you're an engineer or if you're an architect. It is one of the courses that's now part of their core curriculum.
So what are some of the things that are in there?
Yeah. So in the leadership foundations, I talk a lot about leading yourself
Okay.
before you lead others. So what's important about your passion, your purpose, and knowing your vision, how you lead life. I also talk about emotional intelligence and how do you relate to your team? How do you build trust, and how do you, create a level of safety where people feel like they can bring their full selves to work and not feel like they have to hide, cover, or feel like an imposter. I talk about how do you assemble a high performing team, and what are some of the ways that you can overcome conflicts and resistance to change. So it's all the basic things that we all have to deal with as leaders and as project managers, and when we're running a major division of an organization. So it is the basics, but those basics are key and critical.
And I'm curious with that, so if I'm interested in a course like
Yeah.
that, are you looking is that course applicable to new leaders, or
Good
is it
question.
applicable to new leaders and
Yep.
maybe somebody who's
Advanced or
experienced who
something.
didn't get it? I'm just curious, like, who do you
Yeah.
recommend it for?
So I actually built it so that it was for any leader, right? Any leader, whether you're leading a project or if you are a people leader, but also talk to those who are emerging and new leaders. Like some of the videos that I did was, when I was a new leader, here were some of the mistakes I made. Right. So I'm
Mhm.
talking to them. But then you have a Richard Davis come on, who's the former CEO of US Bank. He's been in this thing for 50, 60 years. So he's
Yeah.
talking to his younger leader self, as well as some of the seasoned leaders, about things that they can still do to remain relevant. And I'm talking to them about some of the common pitfalls and mistakes that I'm still seeing leaders 50, 60, 70 years old making. Don't make those same mistakes if you want to get the best work out of your talent.
Yeah, are you finding that companies today are leaning into more leadership training, or is
Oh
it
God,
something?
yes.
Yeah.
You know what, Meredith, and the reason why is because there has been change and disruption, and the pandemic really hit home when just caused a lot of shifting in the ways that people work and how work gets done. And so no more ever will companies be able to say we're going back to the way we used to do it before 2020. No, you have to now really think about the new reality, and that is that people are now dealing with more stress than ever before. They're burnt out, they are feeling overwhelmed, but at the same time, they don't want to be back in the office full time when they've proven that they could be just as
Yeah.
productive working remotely. So we've got to be able to have a hybrid remote work kind of approach. But the other thing too that I'm finding is doing all of these organizational audits and leadership assessments, there's a huge gap and disconnect between what leaders say they do and how effective they think they are. And yet when we
Wow.
staff and we do focus groups and listening sessions and employee engagement surveys, big disconnect. So
Yeah.
there's a leadership gap, there's an accountability gap, and there's a workplace culture inclusion gap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that a lot. You know,
Yeah.
one last question I want to talk about, and then I want to talk about, how people find our courses and things like
Yeah.
that, because I really would encourage people to, if you're a leader right now, go in, take a look. If you're a sales professional, take a look. Think about exposing your team to. I found that one of the great ways that I pitch it to organizations is I'll say, have everybody watch a chapter, a section, and then discuss it as a
Yep.
group. Like, learn together, do the micro learning. And oh my God, it's so, it's so
Yeah.
affordable, such a inexpensive way to do it. But are you doing any work right now around the whole mental health? I read a statistics the other day, and I never know if statistics are right or not, but it says something like 1 in 4 employees are experiencing some mental health crisis right
Yes.
now.
Yep, doing quite a bit of that because from a human resources perspective, that's where it comes, right? You have to ensure now that you are talking about your employee assistance programs. When people are stressed, we need to make sure that as leaders, we're being much more in touch and engaged and asking them how they're doing. We need to do those, what I call check-ins, not on just the projects, but how are they doing just every day? And so we have to be able to have those kinds of conversations. But when we don't deal with it, it starts to contribute to lack of productivity, and people aren't able to be as present as they should be. Absenteeism is high, turnover is high, and engagement is really low. So it has a direct impact on us. So I talk a lot about it, and not going into the psychological, the social, and even the physical part of it. I talk about it from a workplace perspective. How can you create a workplace where when people are feeling stressed and burned out, that we know how to respond quickly
Yeah.
and create some resources for them to support them. And look, here's the other thing, Meredith. Even though we're seeing a lot more and an increase in mental health issues, it's not that it hasn't always been there. Companies haven't had the kind of culture and the level of safety where people have felt comfortable admitting it. And now we're talking about it, and I've seen it now really bring it into the workplace in a way we can really admit that yes, we do have some of these struggles.
Yeah, I think that too. I think, it isn't that necessarily that the problems have increased. It's
Yeah,
that people are far more open to it.
yeah,
One of the things that I love about what we do is that we are incremental to the growth of any organization. The
mhm,
path to growth and profitability lies through your people and your ability to drive sales and, and to drive
yeah,
growth. Now, when we wrap this up and we put it together and send it out, because I wrap everything up into a podcast,
yeah.
I'll put the links in to access your courses,
Okay.
and as well as my courses. And I encourage everybody to check out anything that's on the LinkedIn learning.
Some good stuff out there. I
It's
mean, it's everything. It's just not sales and people, but I mean, it's IT stuff on
Yeah.
there. It's even, how to. It's a lot of things about how to even be a business entrepreneur, how to write a book, how to publish. I mean, it's all how to be a great speaker. All of that
Yeah.
stuff is on there.
Everything, absolutely everything is out there. Everything is professionally
That's right.
produced
I love it.
and just really, really, really phenomenal. So, what would be your last piece of advice for anybody contemplating on the fence right now if they were going to check out LinkedIn Learning? What would be your tidbit, your piece of advice to them?
Yeah, actually, I love, love, love what we've talked about today. And so I would encourage them to be more active online, especially in LinkedIn, because there's so many connections and there's so many people that you can learn from. There are some experts that are in LinkedIn. LinkedIn does a great job of vetting all of us who are now producing content for them. And I would say to start with mine, start with Meredith, and just do a keyword search on
Yeah.
whatever it is that you need to develop, whatever area, whatever skill set you need. Just do a keyword search on LinkedIn Learning, and you'll find a plethora of courses. And just take one, like you said, Meredith, do one and just start going through them, and you'll find some great value, and it's worth the money for that kind of development.
Yeah, I think that advice is spot on, and I would have the same. I would say grab a friend, do
Yeah,
a keyword search just like
yeah,
Shirley said to do, but
yeah,
you will find anything that you have a question to. I love the other part that they've made us get really specific on the course. Like, you don't do a course on leadership. You do a
yeah.
course on a specific challenge
That's right.
around leadership. So you can really go deep. You can really drive in. Well, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I look forward to more. We'll wrap this up, put it out, put the links in there. Thank you all for joining us. And if you have something, any time on your schedule this weekend, really encourage you to invest in yourself.
That's
Investing
right.
in yourself is probably going to bring the strongest return on investment.
I
All
love
right.
it. I love
We'll
it.
see
It's
you
been
next time.
wonderful, Meredith.
Bye.